One of the things that I've found like deeply interesting for a while is sensor networks. In cybersecurity, sensor networks are basically groups of servers or endpoints or pretend servers and endpoints that are put up on the internet and are made to appear vulnerable to different exploits, different malware, things like that. And sometimes they are technically actually vulnerable to those exploits and those, pieces of malware. And the purpose of it is to attract as many attackers as humanly possible, or at least like specific attackers and attack types, and report on what they're doing. It's kind of akin to like the canary in the coal mine, like the actual one, where they would put birds in the middle of these like coal mines. And if the birds passed out, that was like an early indicator that the toxic gases within the mine were increasing because the bird would pass out before humans would. So that was like kind of the way to tell that things were about to get very bad. These sensor networks are obviously a little bit less dramatic than that, but essentially what they are is a way of gathering all of this data to see, okay, this is what our servers are seeing, and our servers are made to appear at least as vulnerable as a normal like endpoint would be or a normal server would be. So if we're looking at that, there's a pretty good chance that like we're seeing that on actual servers, and we can actually start preemptively blocking some of the IP addresses or some of the activity that we're seeing before it ever like hits our network. You can also do similar things on your actual endpoint. So you can do some kind of like deception operations essentially to make your actual server look more vulnerable than it actually is, so that you can catch attackers in the act and you can block them before they do anything like, significant. There are a lot of really cool things that you can do with this. And those of you who have been on the channel for a while know what direction this is going. I'm going to start building one of these things. I'm not going to do it like kind of the way that I've done it before. I'm going to be giving kind of like daily shorter updates like this, similar to how I'm doing the blockchain analysis platform. I'm going to be building both of these things at the same time. They're not related, and I'm not going to try to relate them, but I'm going to be building these things at the same time because they're interesting to me. So I'm going to be building out these sensor networks, and also I'm going to try to build it in such a way that I can start putting some of these things in front of like early to mid stage SaaS applications as kind of like a web application firewall and a way to start blocking malicious activity targeting these SaaS platforms before it ever makes it to the SaaS platforms. I think there's kind of a missing market from a monetization like perspective, and B, like people missing out on cybersecurity protection because like obviously like early to mid stage SaaS companies are either not able to afford or not really paying attention to cybersecurity. So this is something that like there's like a lot of potential for. I just realized that I had my hands up for like a really long time there. I don't know why I got self-conscious about that. But I think there's a lot of potential for creating applications for early to mid stage like web application startups, and doing it in such a way where it's kind of plug and play. They don't really have to worry about it all that much. They just know things are getting blocked and like bad things are getting blocked, and they can get into the weeds if they want to. Kind of similar to Cloudflare in a way, but I think Cloudflare is kind of a little bit more difficult for the non-security savvy, like the non-technical folks. Whereas like this would be a little bit easier. Like here's a dashboard, here is a list of like bad things that are happening, and here's some settings that you can change to start blocking some of those bad things. Insert an IP and you can block it, insert an IP range and you can block it. Just different things like that. I think there's like there's potential there, but more than anything, I think building something like this out and kind of being able to study from like a big data perspective what kind of threats are actively facing like actual SaaS applications, I think that would be useful. Also, I'm building SaaS applications, so having a security application to put in front of my own stuff and kind of dog food it would be at least relatively helpful. My experience running like a couple of different SaaS applications before, like basically the second you boot up a VPS, it's like getting hit. Not by anything like particularly interesting, but like there are exploitation attempts the moment that VPS is turned on and open to the internet. So it's, I mean, the threats there at least, they may not be particularly interesting or like You may not actually get exploited by the vast majority of these things, but the threat is at least out there. So I don't know. I think there's at least a lot of learning potential there. And I think, if I am able to protect like two or three different like SaaS applications and, make $100 off of it, that's a pretty good deal for me. But yeah, be on the lookout for that. I'm going to kind of work on the initial code, some of the branding and things like that, fairly soon. But I'll keep everybody updated. That's about it. Take it easy. Peace.